As we move towards a more dynamic insurance context, there's a real opportunity for insurance brands to become relevant. Insurance brands in the past have necessarily been quite stable kind of background entities. They need to be trustworthy at the moment of purchase. But there's no real reason to talk about our insurer, whether it's at a dinner party or over a weekend, or to express how inspired we are by our insurance company. But if our insurance company can prove to us that they're a life enablement partner, whether it's enabling me to live a healthier, longer life, whether it's enabling me to get better, smarter treatment, or to find people that will co-insure with me, whatever their relationship, or whether it's smarter assessment models using technology in a way that inspires me, whether it's espousing a set of values that I believe in too, going the extra mile with service. I think that there's never been a better time for insurance companies to start speaking like the world's most inspiring brands, whether that's Lego, whether that's Nike. It's a real opportunity for us to shift from being background brands to foreground brands.
Dave Duarte, CEO of TreeShake, makes a great point. Our products provide real benefits when people's health goes wrong. But could we do more to prevent health problems from happening and help people enjoy a longer and happier life? As experts in managing biometric risk, you'd think so. Perhaps thinking differently about innovation can help insurance become life-enabling. Hello, I'm Ross Campbell, leading on digital at GenRe and your host for this podcast series. Join me on an audio adventure that restrings highlights from our global research into compelling considerations for the future, for discussion and exploration with you, your team, your company, and our innovation partners. Episode 3 of 10.
Boards and CEOs, what they need to be able to do is develop a very expansive mindset where they no longer should just be looking at their competitors in their industries, but more broadly across other industries to gain inspiration. I also think that we need to become more agile as we approach the future to ensure that whatever strategy we envision for our organization, that those strategies in the past might have been very, very safe on paper, but I think now with the pace of change, things can change so incredibly quickly that the strategies need to be agile.
Our research shows industry leaders are aware of this more expansive innovation requirement. It means extending research and innovation partnerships. Until now, we've applied more closed innovation or cross-industry collaboration. Today, the net's being thrown much wider in search of new thinking and new capabilities that can transform the industry and what it can offer to its customers.
I think competitive advantage moving forward will be those firms who can best partner with organisations outside of theirs to deliver whole new offerings to customers will be the real winners. And that's where the power of platforms comes in.
One of the biggest inhibitors, though, is the whole legacy side of bigger businesses. So if you're not a startup, chances are you've been around for quite a few years and possibly you're the outcome of mergers and acquisitions. And what that tends to mean is organisational and technological complexity, which makes it very difficult to be agile, to be disruptive. Because when you want to do things differently, to test and learn, fail fast, pivot, try the next thing, that assumes actually your organisational context and setup allows you to do that. And in today's world, I'm not sure anyone has the answer, so you need to be able to try some different things, but you need to be able to do that at relatively limited cost and relatively quickly. And if you're a big business, in my experience, those are two things that don't go hand in hand.
Different companies are taking different approaches to this. Some are fostering the innovation and the startup culture within their own business, whether that be setting aside some money for seed funding for lots of different things to go on in their business. Others are setting up innovation labs. Others are investing in startups outside of their business and letting the idea percolate and seeing if it has applicability back to their own business. So there's no one way to do this, but I know that the insurtech industry in the last 2 or 3 years has really boomed and it's become a real topic of conversation for everyone.
There's a whole bunch of different models. So, at the group level, we have kind of a venture arm that will invest in promising startups and get in at an early phase if we see something interesting. So we can acquire IP that way. We have our own internal incubators and labs. I think in Boston, Toronto, Singapore, Shanghai. a couple more places. So we've got labs everywhere where we follow these design thinking type processes where we take a problem statement and then use a bunch of creativity to come up with ideas and then test them and so forth. So we're doing that type of experimentation. And in certain markets, we're forming partnerships with technology companies that seem to have good ideas, and either trying them out or in our own product offerings, or engaging with them in some form or other.
I'm seeing a lot of is a real effort to collaborate in the industry. I think it's great to see, digital garages and innovation centers and corporate VC funds and digital partnership businesses sort of springing up around the industry. That's kind of what we as startups need. We need the ability to interface into the industry. It's moving so fast. And I think what is also good is there's money pouring into the sector. So not just the corporate VCs, but the more traditional tech-based VCs are looking at fintech and now insurtech as a future source of profitable investment, and that kind of opens up new opportunities for everybody.
The opportunities are there. A willingness to experiment and to develop innovation partnerships point to a more active strategy at work. In fact, insurance is now the largest investor in insurtech, surpassing venture capitalists for the first time in 2017.
The industry is starting to realize it's time for change too. And that's why even on the VC perspective, you could see how the number of investments are raising. And on the startup scene, you could see how many more startups are starting to focus on insurance and pivoting from other industries into insurtech. And insurtech wasn't even a buzzword a few years ago, but it is now. And we work with 10 different industries, but insurance was the one that picked up so fast. And I think it's going to get more. It's because people are going to see the difference of corporates who started earlier. They're going to see their competition doing this. And a lot of people are not going to win the year one. They're not going to win year two. But down the line, it's definitely going to be a huge factor in terms of who's going to be more successful.
This new relationship that's developing with entrepreneurs and startups is changing how insurers can approach research and development, but it's not without its challenges.
The new R&D of today are startups. We have the ability to see hundreds of companies in financial services, fintech companies, experimenting with ideas and new business models. And by partnering with them, we can get there a lot faster than the old traditional model of R&D.
The biggest challenge for us is to integrate the startup culture, the lean, agile thinking back into the existing business. And that is still a learning curve for us. We, for example, took some of our staff members and brought them to the Startup Bootcamp Hackathon a couple of times now, and just the cultural change that. So people now realize that they can actually create a product in 48 hours. Where previously this would be a 6-month to a year project, to get things done.
One of the challenges with our current innovation approach is sort of shifting that gear from it being a test and learn environment where we are trialing lots of different things around the business, turning that into being a fundamental organizational capability. So ultimately, we will all need to change, not just the few who are currently charged with sort of developing our future thinking, if we are actually to transform the entire organization into that future state that we are looking for.
One of the reasons we're investing and spending considerable sums of money in innovation in various forms is not just because we think we might strike it rich or hit on a great idea, or block someone else from getting the same idea, but a good part of it, frankly, is to change the way of thinking and the culture, in our own company by exposing people to these processes.
Interest in bringing innovation into the industry is gaining more noticeable momentum. It's starting to have an impact. It is scaling up. But this year, it's time more of us got involved in actual projects so that these ideas are quickly transferred into business as usual.
I think the approach to innovation has moved from maybe trying to back 1 or 2 big projects every couple of years as part of your strategic plan to it being a much more sort of natural process, an ongoing process within the business where we trial and experiment with lots of different things, back the winners. And as I mentioned earlier, that requires quite a change in organizational culture, particularly around a willingness to fail. Now, we're actually trying to pilot lots of smaller ideas, to pilot them in a more agile, maybe minimum viable product type of way, to put them out there, even though they may not be perfect, but it's more important to get them out there in the real world and to trial things and sort of get some adoption, to really invest behind accelerating those and let some of the others fall away and trial new things.
It just shows the intensity and diversity of effort needed to deliver new ideas. We'd like for more of our clients to get to work with us on projects, and soon. Innovation can take us further together if we are ambitious enough.
A lot of the technology companies talk about is 10 times thinking. Well, if you look at our industry, we talk about very happy with a business plan that's plus 10%, plus 10%. You know, that's the way our industry thinks. I think we have to think 10 times thinking, and that requires rethinking on a scale that's not about what an individual company does, but what's about how does our industry sector as a whole operate. That's what's going to challenge providers, distributors, regulators, and reinsurers.
If you improve your performance linearly, you actually fall behind exponentially, right? In exponential times, as things move away from you, if you just think, hey, things are going better and better, but you're staying on course, you fall behind exponentially. At some point, you're actually just falling off the cliff, even though it felt great, right? Think BlackBerry, boom, right? BlackBerry grew tremendously after the iPhone came in, right? But the world was moving away from them. So they were on this trajectory, and they didn't understand they were on a going out of business trajectory.
If you live in an exponential world and your innovation process is not exponential, then you're falling behind exponentially.
You know, when we did Siri, that ended up on the iPhone, that was about 10 technologies that came together. It was machine learning, it was big data, it was search, it was natural language. We had to put together a family of technologies. So it's not just Moore's Law. You just can't look at one of these and say, oh, I'm keeping up with this trend. That's not true. You have to keep up with all of these trends. And the magic happens, and why SRI was so profoundly successful at creating one, massive industry after another, is we were constantly looking for how these converging exponentials came together. So when you think about things like Moore's Law, it's a factor of 10 every few years, a factor of 2 about 18 months now. By itself, you can kind of keep track of that. But there's Moore's Law, but there's an artificial intelligence Moore's Law, there's a machine learning Moore's Law, there's a big data Moore's Law. And when they all change enough, and over a 5-year period, you might get a 10 times change. When you put 3 or 4 of these together, all of a sudden you've got the chance to work in a white space to disrupt an industry. So it's that ability to look for those big opportunities and look for these, we call them colliding exponentials. That's where we focused our effort, and we were able to find one big opportunity after another. My question always is, do you have a company that has a process to identify and take advantage of those white spaces?
Where can we look for inspiration? What does it take to innovate in that transformative context? These are questions we'll seek to address. We really want to talk to you about digital. Call your local Genry office to make that happen, or get in touch with me direct. And please join me in the next podcast to hear more insights.